All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Blueprint Podcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast that is all about providing construction entrepreneurs with the strategies and insights on how to scale their business. If you're tuning in for the first time, in previous episodes, we've talked about exploring topics ranging from knowing your niche to scaling strategies focused on building a strong foundation within your business built around SOPs. And today, we're going to be focusing on how to build a high-performance team. I'm Joe McEvoy. I'm one of your hosts. I am the owner of MTM. We are a staffing and recruitment company based and focused solely in the construction and remodeling space. Matt, you want to give us an introduction?
I'm Matt Rahn with the Rahn Company's exterior maintenance company. We provide exterior and property maintenance for facility and commercial property managers. I'm excited to be here today. And, the point of this podcast, help all you out there, try and, give you some tools to help you grow and be successful. Excited to see who we can help today.
I'm excited about today's episode. I can tell you that.
This is all about Joe today.
This is what I do for a living. So building a high performance team. And the thing that's interesting is this is what brought us together, and how we got connected. I met Matt through mutual connections, networking events. I don't even remember how we ended up.
I'm not sure.
Oh, I remember.
Took place
LinkedIn.
At a Starbucks.
Sitting down at Starbucks, talking about, helping, scale his business through the power of people. And I think this is a, I would say for the construction and remodeling space, this is probably one of the biggest topics because, I've been in it for 13 years now. When I started my business almost a year ago now, I remember when I was looking to get involved with like networking events and different associations, and I was calling them and, explaining what I did, the level of excitement was like, Joe, I tell you, like our association, we have calls monthly and always in the top 5 topics of issues that, our members run into is staffing and finding the right people to help build their business.
I think that goes along right with even society today. People have a hard time with relationships, communicating with people in general. So I think when you're building a team, right, that's all part of it. You have to be in a place where you can communicate, get along, and work together with people. You're not going to find that perfect match per se out there.
Well, and so many people are focused on hiring the right people. That's just a part of it. It's like, okay, hiring them, but then there's a massive, massive part of this, which is, okay, retaining them. And I think that's a piece that we miss all the time. So
we're getting performance out of them, right? Joe could bring me the best person in the world. If I don't set them up to be successful, is that my fault or Joe's fault?
Yeah. So let's talk about, how to effectively find, hire, and retain talent, because I think that is where most people struggle. Let's start with finding and hiring talent. There's a million ways to do it, right? You can tackle it yourself. And I think most people try to, put an ad up on Indeed, ZipRecruiter. You can put them up there for free. They don't charge you. You can build a business account. You could try to go at it yourself. You can outsource to an agency like ours, or you can start to build a team internally that can recruit and staff for you. It all depends on the needs of the business. And what I'd say is you have to understand where you're at as a business owner, and to get the hires that you need, and where's your time best spent.
I think it goes back to some things we talked on previous episodes too, right? Like what's your hiring process look like? All right, whether you do one of those or it's probably going to take a combination of those efforts to get the right person in front of you. When you do get these people in front of you, are you just sitting down with them saying like, oh, well, Joe seems like a nice guy? Or are you sitting down with, all right, these are the things that we expect this role to be able to do. What's your experience in those things? How do you feel about our core values? How do you feel about the way that we operate? And seeing like, are they really a fit for your organization?
And again, I don't think getting in front of people is the hard thing, right? I think there's plenty of, like we kind of talked about, there's plenty of avenues to be able to do that. You can go put an ad up on Indeed, you can go on ZipRecruiter, you can put something on LinkedIn, you can put something on your social media, you can tap into your referral network. It's okay. How do you find the right person? Let me ask you, when you're hiring, Matt, what are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody with a certain skill set? Are you looking for somebody with a certain personality trait? Are you looking for both?
Honestly, I feel like that's something that I've personally struggled with, and I've I guess, went about it multiple different ways. I understand now, and I know what's the best way is you have to hire for fit for your team and for your organization. And it's important that you understand who your team are and you have an identity as a company, whether it's through your core values or however you identify yourself. But you need to look for somebody that aligns with you and your feelings and that you guys could work together with, right? There is no magic person that's going to come in there and just be able to do everything. Everybody has a unique skill set, and there's people that can complement certain skill sets or fill a certain role. But at the same time, just because they have that skill set, they might have a personality that doesn't coincide with what you guys are doing as an organization. So I think it's more about finding the person that's a fit, but you also have to understand who you are as a person if you're going to be their leader or their manager.
And it's funny when, like, I could tell you when I hire somebody, 10 times out of 10, I'm hiring somebody who matches the characteristic traits, the qualities, the culture of what we're looking for in a business. I don't care whether somebody has recruited in the past or not.
Because you're confident that you could train them.
Well, that's what it is, right? This goes back to kind of what we were talking about in the last episode, is having like really strong foundation, having really strong SOPs that, we can we can take anybody and make them a really great recruiter. What we do specifically, you don't need a specific skill set to do. We can teach it. We're hiring, and when I hire recruiters, we hire off characteristics. And I think, what we've seen, and I've hired thousands of people over my 13 years of doing this, and we've worked with hundreds of companies. And what I'd say is where we see success is when people hire over culture fit, not job fit.
All right.
And, it's tough because most of the times when you're hiring, it's because there's a need. And the need is you're busy and you need somebody that can do the job. And what's easier, to hire somebody who kind of knows how to do the job and they're a little bit more plug and play, or hire somebody who's like, is going to be around probably for a really long time, somebody you could probably go out and have a beer with after work, somebody who you want to spend every day with, but you're going to have to spend 3 months training and developing. And I think it's a lot easier to take that low-hanging fruit of, let me just get the person in here who can just do the job right away. And most people hire off of the fact that they can do the job, not necessarily that they're the best fit for the organization. Because usually when you're hiring, most of the people that we see hiring are hiring in a tight pinch, and they're being more reactive when they're hiring as opposed to, proactive.
Right.
So they're like, I just need somebody who can do this today. And
Construction's hard because jobs, you get one big job and then you're going down. So you might need a person for 6 months, then you don't need them. Or you get a big job, now you need to add another person that you didn't know you were getting that job until the contract gets signed and gets emailed to you that day. And you're like, oh my God, we just got this contract, but now we need 5 more guys to start next week.
Right. And we can talk about strategies around that, right? Because I think oftentimes too, again, we talk about being reactive versus proactive.
Right.
And a lot of times when people are hiring and staffing, they wait till there's a need to hire somebody. Where some of our clients that have the most amount of success, they are meeting with and recruiting and hiring, not hiring. And we have to understand, like, recruiting and interviewing are different than hiring, right? Hiring is meaning I have a need, I need somebody, I need to bring them on. But when just recruiting and interviewing, it's free, right? Like, it doesn't cost you anything other than time to do that. But just because you're interviewing somebody doesn't mean you have to hire them. Like, what we do is, like, it is tough because even in our base, in my space, we might pick up a new contract tomorrow and we're like, holy shit, I need a recruiter. Let me start getting a recruiter now. But I'm already behind the 8 ball because that contract starts on Monday and I don't have a recruiter to start staffing for that person. So what do I have to do? Well, I find myself, um, you know, going out and trying to find a recruiter to start on Monday and hoping that it works out. And I can tell you right now, 10 times out of 10, it has not worked out.
Right. You don't have time to train them, even if they were the right person.
Nope. So I've hired the person that was just like, had maybe 3 years of recruiting experience, and they said they could come in and do it. And when it came out, they didn't operate the way that we needed them to operate at the scale in which we needed them to do it. So what do we do? Well, I can tell you right now, we are constantly, whether we need them or not, interviewing recruiters. And we set the expectation that we're not necessarily hiring right now, but we're going to have a need in the future. And we want to meet with people now so that we're set up for the future. And we're always keeping a bench of potential candidates waiting in the wind for us to get something. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you meet with somebody and you're like, this person's great. And you're like, hey, listen, like I said, I know we're going to have a need in the future. It's not right now. Let me call you in a month or two. But I have a list of people that I can call that like I feel really confident about, as opposed to like, shit, I got this contract starting on Monday. Let me meet with like 2 recruiters and just hire the first person that comes in the door. Now it's like, all right, I've built a bench of people I can call back to. And some of them, listen, they move on, they get other jobs, but maybe I have a list of 10 or 15 people that I met over the past year. Construction specifically, we all know it's slow in the winter. And it's crazy because from a recruitment perspective, we become slow in the winter because every company that we work with, the winter is slow for them. So they're like, we're not hiring. We're not doing anything right now. Work is slow. It's the winter months. And
that's when you got to separate yourself. All right, well, if everybody's not working, that's when you can go out and find people that are like, all right, I'm willing to take a chance on something new. And I think what you said, recruiting and hiring a lot of times get interchanged, but they're not necessarily the same thing. I think recruiting, like you said, constantly building a bench, I've heard that a lot, is more like marketing yourself to the labor force that's out there and saying, this is who we are as an organization. This is how we operate. These are the types of roles we offer. Maybe this is ideas and compensation that we offer. So those people have time to think about in their own life. Maybe in 3 months, they say, wow, that really sounded good. And I think I need a change. I'm going to go back. Or they tell their friend, I met with this company and like, I'm not ready to leave my job, but it seems like they're doing a lot of cool stuff over there. And maybe they refer somebody to you. So
yeah,
I think recruiting is, almost like a form of marketing.
Well, it's funny. There's like that Glenn Ross. It's like ABC, always be closing,
right.
Always be recruiting. Because also, like you said, it's tough because you never know. You never know if there's going to be a contract coming down the pipeline and you have to hire somebody. But let's talk about your current staff. You have people that work for you now, right? What would happen if somebody quit tomorrow? And most of the time, when people quit, you don't know. They just come in one day, they give their 2 weeks, or even worse, they just don't show up to the job site. And now what? You're left with a contract that you do have, that you thought you had somebody for, that they're gone now. And because you hadn't been recruiting or you hadn't been meeting with people, you're left stuck and there's nobody for you to call and you have to start from scratch, right? And you should always be actively interviewing and going out and meeting with people because, again, there's so many unknowns out there. You don't know, you might land another contract. You never know. Your best person might quit tomorrow. Also, what's the harm? What if you meet somebody who fundamentally is going to be better than your worst person? You should always be looking to upgrade your talent as well. But again, the problem is we get stuck with, I don't want to hire until I need somebody. And that's okay. Don't hire anybody until you need them, but you should always be meeting with top-level talent or trying to find top-level talent because, again, you don't know what's waiting. There might be another big contract right around the corner where you're going to need somebody. You might have an employee on your staff right now that's 1 foot out the door and is going to leave you high and dry, stuck with a contract that you're not going to be able to execute on because they're going to put in their 2 weeks. And also, too, you can always top grade your talent, on your current team. There's recruiting a lot is like it's a little bit of timing and a little bit of just like, again, we keep using this term relentless dedication to just finding better people. Because again, like somebody may not be looking 3 months from now, but they're looking today. But if you can get them in your Rolodex and you can build a relationship over with them, maybe they're not looking right now. Maybe they're like, hey, I'm good. But then you call them in 3 months and now all of a sudden they are looking,
Yeah, it gives people a chance, like I said, to learn, who you are, and then maybe they do some research on you and they join you at a later date or they refer somebody to you. You never know where it could lead to, but you need to always be having conversations with people and letting them understand what it is that you guys can offer as an organization.
Yeah. And I'm just making a note here for myself. Step 1, hire for culture. Step 2, ABR. Always be recruiting. The other thing we see is, okay, I have clients that are like, their businesses are like revolving doors.
Turnover kills businesses.
Absolutely. Because I think most people out there will admit it's hard enough just to even find good talent. So one, you're not making it any easier than when you do find somebody, you're losing them. And, is there anything that you do specifically in your business to, retain?
Right. I guess it all goes back to culture, and everybody has a different view on culture or what that should look like or how that should function. But I think retain is number one, you set the people up to be successful in their role. Number two, once they're successful, you don't just forget about them and leave them in the corner and think that they got it. If you have somebody that's driven or motivated, they probably want to know what's the next step for them. Now they mastered this. Where's their growth within your organization? Are you meeting with your people and doing reviews with them and helping them understand like what they could do better, what they're good at, what another opportunity for them could look like? Like, people don't want to be stagnant. So you need to keep people involved. Engage is a good term that everybody wants to use nowadays. But I think what it really comes down to is people need to see that, like you said, they're going to work and they're accomplishing something. They're providing for their family or whatever that might look like. But they don't want to just be doing a mundane task that doesn't mean anything. They want to be working towards the next level.
So there's like one word that comes to mind when you speak like that, and it's purpose. People want to wake up and go to work and feel like they have a purpose, that they're engaged with their employer and that they're valued there. Because again, you can go get a job anywhere, right? Like there's a million property exterior maintenance companies that they can go work for. There's a million recruitment companies that my recruiters can go work for. I think the difference, and kind of like what you said between, my recruiters and probably your employees, is they come in every day and they feel like they have purpose. My team feels just as much a part of the business as I do, and they are. And I treat them as such. I treat them like owners of the business. And nobody is above the organization. We all share the same thing. We're all there to protect the brand and the organizational structure of the business. And I think that's like what's really key. And my team feels like they're not coming in and just recruiting and hiring every day. That just feels like a job. My team, I think, and I hope, and this is what we try to instill, is that they're building something that's bigger than themselves. And I think that's a lot of times what people miss, right? Is the Rahn company just another place you can go and lay concrete? Or is it a place that your people feel like they are building the world that they're living in? Because that's how I look at it. Like, that's how I look at all my clients. All my clients in the construction space, I don't look at them as like they're roofers or they are like helping build the American dream, because they're working at, like, what's the American dream? It's buying a home. It's owning a home. It's owning a business. And you support that. You do that. You make their parking lots, their sidewalks beautiful. You make it so customers can get to and from. You're fundamentally helping these businesses grow by something as simple as like repairing the sidewalk. But, do your people feel that way? Do your people fundamentally think the business is building a better world, or do they think they're just going out and laying concrete every day? Because if they do, you're not going to keep them.
Are they taking pride in what they're doing? Do they want to do a good job and look back? And like, that's one thing that, I always enjoyed about construction. Like, each day you go out, you start the day with nothing. At the end of the day, you're building something that might not be complete in one day, but you're building towards something. And like, you can see the progress and you can see the movement from the effort that you're putting out. And I think it's important for people to see that. They want to have goals or some kind of metrics. We talked about scorecards, something that they're tracking themselves against, or something that they can see like, wow, I'm making progress.
Something else you said, which was just so insightful and thoughtful, was, what does your communication with them look like? How often are you meeting with your employees? Are you doing 30, 60, 90-day reviews? Are you doing quarterly reviews? You're doing yearly reviews? Because I hate nothing more when somebody quits and they, the hiring manager or the business owner comes to me and they're like, that person quit. We need to hire somebody else. I'm like, oh, what happened? Why'd they quit? I don't know. That wasn't a right fit. It's like, why don't you know? You should never be surprised when somebody quits. You should know that somebody has either got a foot in or a foot out in your business. And if you don't, it's because you're not spending enough time with your people. I always know when I'm about to lose a recruiter. And it's because typically there's conversations that lead me to believe that.
They're checked out.
Well, it's just like we'll have a review and we encourage our people during the reviews to be very open and honest. And we're very open and honest too. And the problem is sometimes what they want and what we're willing to offer don't align. And that's tough. It's never easy. I'd love to give my people everything that they want, but sometimes that just doesn't align with the business. So then the problem lies is, okay, this person wants X or this is what they're looking for. The business can't provide that. So now in my head, part of me is like, all right, is this person, maybe 1 foot out the door? And when they do quit, I'm not like, oh my God, I can't believe that person didn't leave. I'm like, I knew that person was going to leave because we had open and honest conversations about what they were looking for versus what they were getting from the business, and they didn't align, and that's okay. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, doesn't mean it's a bad business, just sometimes it doesn't align. But we can't be blind as owners and operators of business, we can't be blinded by what's going on in the business and how our people are feeling.
What do you think about, I guess that's an opportunity for leadership there. When you do have that feeling about somebody though, is there an opportunity to save it? Do you tell them and be upfront with them and say I have a feeling you aren't
Always.
fully engaged in this? Or do you just wait it out and see what happens?
I always have that conversation. And, it's interesting because, I can't tell you how many conversations I've sat down, somebody be like, okay, here's where I think you're at. I feel like you're not fully engaged in the business. I feel like you have 1 foot out the door. And I can't tell you how many times it's been like, oh my God, not at all. I am so sorry. I just have something that's going on at home and it's been really stressing me out and I just haven't been able to focus and work and X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, now you've just created a bond with your employee on a more intimate level at the point that they're able to open up about their personal life. I can't tell you, one of the organizations I've worked at, they were phenomenal at this. And, I looked at my boss as one of my best friends and I could open up and tell him everything. And he always knew where I stood, whether it was I was mad at the business or there was just something going on at home that I never felt like I wanted them to think I had a foot out the door. So I always felt comfortable and confident going to them. But I have this conversation all the time. Hey, I feel like I had, one girl one time, it was something personal. It had nothing to do with the business. She was just like, there's something going on in my personal life right now. I'm just sorry. I feel like I haven't been engaged with the business. And I've been able to talk. And then also I can help her.
Well, I was going to say, sorry, now you say that. So how do you help them and how do you
if it's something personal,
right?
Hey, why don't you take the next 2 days off and why don't you deal with that? Because a lot of times they don't want to take the time off of work. But now think about the impact that has on the person. Okay, my employer actually cares about me. They said it's okay for me to take 2 days off of work to deal with this. And, when they come back at 110%. You can either continue to let them suffer. Let's say they have something going on in their home life. They can continue to suffer. And maybe because they can't fully deal with it because they're working from, 9 to 5 and they got to go home and they got to go do this and that. They're never really fundamentally dealing with the problems. So it just kind of stretches out. Instead of getting 100% productivity out of this person, you're only getting maybe 25% because 75% of their brain is somewhere else, not focused in the business. I'd rather say, take 2 days off, take Thursday, Friday off, take the weekend, come back on Monday ready to work. Does that seem fair? And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. I didn't know how to deal with it. Now I'm giving you 2 days to go deal with it. And when they come back, they're almost not indebted, but they feel a sense of gratitude towards the business. And they're willing to run through a wall because you actually care about them. And sometimes it's just, this isn't for me. I don't like doing this role. I don't like doing this. I like doing that. And sometimes you have the conversation, and then sometimes it's like, hey, we just have to shake hands and part ways. And that's always tough, and that's always difficult because they didn't want to quit, and you didn't want to let them go. But you have to understand it's like it's in their best interest. If they're not happy here, it's best to part ways, and it's better for all parties included, right?
Yeah, you have to be, that's part of being a manager or a leader, comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations, as people say. But there's no progress made done in uncertainty, or you thinking, I think they're going to leave, and you just let them sit there for 2 weeks and not function. Like, that's not serving you, and that's not serving them. So it's better to just have that upfront conversation, like you said. Give them the 2 days if that's what works, and then reevaluate. Are you ready to come back and function now? Or if not, then maybe it's time for us to go our separate ways. But let's identify that and move forward, not let it drag out for the next month.
It's tough, and people are always super hesitant to have those conversations. You can't be. As an owner and operator of a business, you need to face every employee problem or anything that you're feeling heads on, because I fundamentally believe as a leader, you always lead with transparency. And my team will always get that from me, and I expect the same thing from them. And they should always feel comfortable coming to me. The other thing I think like a lot of employers miss is like culture building and engagement, right? And I say this because
I gotta tell you a story on that. I see this meme online the other day where it's like all these old like cold Domino's pizzas on a folding table in this big corporate office. They're like, yeah, company did so great this year. They gave us all this cold pizza. And like, it almost becomes a joke now, right? Yeah. Because every big corporation's like, oh, we're going to have a pizza party now. Yeah. And like that, people don't relate to that anymore. That has no effect on people. That's been watered down too much.
No, and I'd say there's probably not even companies giving out pizzas, right? Like there's some people that are sitting there like, man, I wish I had a cold Domino's pizza. My company hasn't given me anything in years, right? Or sometimes, something I like to do, and again, this is something that I've had experience with past organizations, and I think a lot of times, companies miss the boat on this a lot, and it's engagement with the team, outside of the office, right? And those things go such a far way. Let me give you an example. This Saturday, me and my team are all going to New York City for the night. And I booked rooms for them and their significant others.
Pretty nice trip.
What's that?
That's a pretty nice trip.
And, I'll be it cost me $1,000 to put them all up in a really nice hotel. Total for, I only have 6 employees working for me right now. So, 6 hotel rooms at $250, $300 a room, call it whatever, $1,200, $1,300, whatever it was. And I say that because I could have turned around and maybe I could have given that money to the team, but I like experiences. And I think experiences go a lot further. And I think a lot of times like companies just think it's okay to give you like a small monetary bonus. But I'm like, okay, I could give them all $500, but then after taxes, it's $250. And, what are they going to go do $250?
It goes into an account. They swipe their debit card and never even realize they had it.
And and maybe they bought, I don't know, something off Amazon for it that they're not going to have in a year. Or I can take that $500. I can get them hotels rooms. I can get them gift cards to go out to dinner with their significant other. I can give them experience that they can carry for like a lifetime. And for me, I think that's monumental. Because I remember I had that, and there was times where it was like a previous employer would bring me on all these amazing trips, and people were like, "Wouldn't you just rather have the money?" I'm like, no.
Because you get caught up in life, right? You have the money and you might not apply the money to going on them trips, and you might not ever go. And like that's one part of it, but to even take it a step farther, like you said, I think giving people experience, but also giving people like experience through knowledge. So, one thing we've helped some of our people with is like purchasing their first home and understanding like how can they set themselves up to be able to qualify for a mortgage? How does a mortgage work? Because we have some people that are laborers that, they don't have a whole lot of education and they don't have a lot of people in their family or friends that they could go to that really understands how these things work. So helping them upgrade their life and become better humans overall, I think is one of the best strategies for, retention. Like help them become a better human. They're going to be a better employee. They're going to be more loyal to the company and they're going to appreciate the things that you've done. I don't think everything always comes down to dollars. Like more dollars doesn't necessarily make you a better human.
And I think too, oftentimes, if the shoe fits, wear it, right? But I think a lot of times, like oftentimes, the employer-employee relationship just becomes super transactional. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, when it's, okay, I pay you to do a job, so I give you a check every week or every 2 weeks. So my expectation in return is that you give me this amount of production. If that's how you want to run your business, I can assure you, you are going to lose people. And the reason being is because that transaction is transactional. That's all it is. So that means that if that person can go get $1 more an hour or $2 more an hour, make $10,000 or $5,000 more a year and do the same thing, they're going to leave you for that. And I see it all the time. We see it in candidates. They jump from job to job to job to job just to make 50 cents, $1, $1.50, $2 more an hour. And I'm like, people like they should feel like they're part of the organization. And I think if the owners were spending more time with their people, sitting down, having conversations with them, that would go a much larger way. Because I think a lot of owners just feel like I have to pay them more to keep them. And it's like, I guarantee if I sat down with every employee in most of these businesses and said, I can give you $200 or you can spend a day with your boss or the owner of the organization, what would you rather do? I think most of it would be they would pick the time.
I think too, not just throwing money at the problem, like help them understand like, okay, well, you want to make more money. How can you become more valuable to the organization?
Absolutely.
What can we put in place to help you be more effective out there? How can we increase your production time or whatever the case may be? But having that give and take and communication, I like relating things to sports. The quarterback has that mic piece in his helmet, right? He's talking to the offensive coordinator. They call a play. Like they're talking about, all right, how can we make this play the best it could be? It's the same way. You have to talk to your people and understand, like, what is it something you could do? It could be as simple as buying them a new keyboard, buying them a new chair. Maybe that makes them comfortable and they work harder throughout the day. Those little things really matter. And I think that's what helps you really build that team and get everybody in the same direction. Just giving everybody $1 more an hour once in a while when they complain isn't really solving a problem or being proactive towards building a team.
Another thing too, when we talk about building culture, and this is like the hot topic right now in the hiring space is, and we're running short on time, but work-life balance. You hear it all the time. And when we speak to one of the main reasons two of the main reasons that people are always looking to switch careers is growth and work-life balance. We spoke a little bit about growth, right? And you said that career road mapping needs to be a real thing. People need to come into your organization and see that there's an opportunity to grow. And even if there isn't one, that's okay. They need to feel like there is one. And then the other thing is like work-life balance. We hear it all the time. And I can't take credit for this because this was something that was preached at a former organization I was at, is we didn't like the term work-life balance. We talked about work-life integration and, how can those two work together? And, we talk about that. Why can't they be one and the same? And it's like the example I just gave of taking my team out to New York. I'm taking my team out to New York because I want to build deeper bonds with them and I want to spend time with them outside of work and get to know them. But you know what happens on these trips 10 times out of 10? We always end up speaking about work. It just happens naturally. I used to work at a previous company with both my brothers. And, although when we were hanging out at my mom's house at Thanksgiving or, this and that, we were always talking about work. And it wasn't because we felt like we had to. It's because we had successfully integrated, work and life. And I think that's key. Work shouldn't feel like work, and you have to separate yourself from it. And I think oftentimes that's why a lot of these candidates are looking to find work-life balance, because the two can't integrate. Their job stresses them out and they don't want to be there. So they need an escape from it. When I met with you, it's like, it's funny. And I think most business owners, when you meet with them, you fundamentally feel different about the business, because there's days where I call you and I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm in the office on a Sunday and you're doing work. And you don't seem like, it's not like, I fucking have to be here. I hate being, like, you wanted to be in there, right? Because it's your business, it's your baby, you care about it, you're passionate about it, and you just want to do it all the time. And I think we feel that way as owners, but how do we get our people to feel that way? How do we get them to feel like they're owners? And not that it's like work is something they have to leave and go to life, it's how do you integrate the two?
I think, people are individuals, right? So it comes down to a person by person basis. Like you mentioned before, you have to really understand that person and their personality, number one, to figure out what's important to them and what is their, life look like outside of your career. And then number two, it's having those conversations with them, those review meetings, the scorecards, and telling them, like, what is it that you really want? Like, if you were coming in here and being tasked with things that you really do not enjoy or you don't feel you're good at, like, it's time for you to figure out what you can do to make a change. Like, can you get training? Can you move to a different role? Like, nobody is doing anybody a service by allowing somebody to underperform or operate in a fashion that's not serving them. So you as a manager or a leader, I think part of your responsibility is to sometimes call people out on that and give them that little bit of nudge, like, hey, if you're not happy in this role, like, let's talk about what it would look like to make you happy and how can we help put you on that path.
Yeah. All right. We are running out of time.
Oh, it was great talking today.
Yeah.
I hope everybody got some value here. We look forward to coming back again with another episode. If you guys have anything that you feel would be a help to you growing your business or something you want to question us on, feel free to drop it in the comments.
So here's what I got. Recap. 1, ABR. Always be recruiting. Even when you don't need to hire, you should be meeting with talent, because you can either, 1, build a bench of people you can potentially bring on board. 2, if somebody leaves, you're not stuck starting from scratch. And 3, if you land that next big contract, you have a bench of people that you can bring on. 2, if you can, always hire for culture. And that's the other thing. I think if you're constantly recruiting, it makes it a little bit easier to hire for culture because you're not stuck. Right? 2nd, build a culture. Focus on building culture. Spend time with your people. Understand, what makes them tick. How do they need to be managed? And what type of culture are they looking for? Next, create a career roadmap so people feel like they have a purpose and they have a journey that they're on with you, and that this just doesn't, that their employment isn't just transactional. And then lastly, get rid of the term work-life balance and start focusing on work-life integration. And I think you'll be able to hire and retain at a much better pace.
Okay, so build your bench. See that on the back of an MTM t-shirt coming soon.
Thanks for listening. I don't know, do they click to subscribe? How does this work?
I'm not sure. Click to subscribe, comment, like, share, all the things. Just help us spread the message out here. We're here to serve you guys. We want to see you be successful.